Hey everybody, welcome to Life is Beautiful. I'm Anthony, and today I wanted to talk about what I think is going to happen in the new year, in 2021. 2020, as we all know, was a bit chaotic. And I think it was so chaotic, and there was just so much happening throughout the year that it could have some pretty serious ripple effects going on for a pretty long time. But I do think there are some more smaller, more immediate, more noticeable effects that I think we will start to see throughout 2021. So that's exactly what I wanted to talk about today. We're going to talk a little bit about, the industry. We're going to talk about how it's going to affect customers and consumers, and we're going to talk about what we could potentially see from like brewers coming out this year based off of trends, pattern analysis, and just certain data points that I've gathered together. So let's get into it. One of the number one things that I think is going to be most important to look at going into 2021, I think that we are going to start seeing a little bit of an interesting shift throughout the industry. And what I mean by that is I think we're going to see a lot of your bigger, your stronger legacy brewers. I think we're going to start to see them start shrinking down, if not in production levels, probably their footprint, trying to re-solidify and reassert themselves as a regional powerhouse instead of trying to become a national or even a global powerhouse. Throughout 2020, we saw major breweries like Green Flash, who, to be fair, had problems leading up to it in, the previous years. However, they completely ceased production completely in 2020. And then we saw several major, almost global powerhouses like Stone. We saw them start closing their tap rooms. Even major brands like Pabst, they closed their tap house and their experimental small batch room. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that people are really bunkering down and they're drinking more local, they're drinking higher quality stuff. I also think it's just such a massive strain on breweries to continue the production and continue the distribution. Even if they, like Stone, have like a brewing facility in some of the places that they open, like Berlin and Shanghai, I think it's kind of impossible to become so engrossed in a place so far away from your headquarters that you're able to just thrive. Sure, some people do it like Brewdog and they're exceptional at it, but I just think it's going to be pretty difficult for a lot of breweries to maintain that massive footprint. For the past couple years, beer's been on a decline, craft beer has been on an increase, but eventually we are going to hit a ceiling. We have to hit a ceiling. And the closer we get to that ceiling, we're going to start seeing more things like this. We're going to start seeing breweries who have expanded so wide start to recoil a little bit. The market is only going to get more competitive. When you're dealing with like hyper competitiveness, people have options. And if people have options, they're going to specifically choose what they want. They're not pigeonholed into one certain product, where a lot of these regional powerhouses in the initial phase, how they got so big was they were shipping to places that really didn't have any other alternative. Me personally, and this is just how I've always been, if I have $20 to spare, I'd rather pick up one 4-pack of something that's really, really, really well done or very interesting or something, unique or special than just a sixer, So many people were going into money saver mode and they were, stashing their acorns away. Yeah, alcohol consumption did go up, but people, I think, were spending it more on things that gave them higher quality instead of just buying in bulk. And if that wasn't the case, then I don't think a lot of these smaller breweries would have been able to sustain themselves. Adding on to that, I just think the distribution model is going to become a little bit more outdated. So many of the blue laws have kind of eroded, and that is what I think the business model throughout 2021 is going to be. I think that's where breweries will thrive. I just don't think that the vaccines and everything like that are going to roll out in a fast enough manner to completely open up the world as fast and as quickly as people think it is. And if breweries already have that freedom, those two things combined together really, really solidifies the idea to me that breweries should focus on that direct to consumer go. I think tap rooms are going to continue to hurt, although when things do resume normality, I do think we will see a massive surge in tap rooms because people are just itching to get out and live their lives and, be in society again. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what I think what the business might look like, let's talk about what type of offerings I think we can expect to see throughout 2021. In absolutely no way do I think that we are going to witness the fall of the IPA. The IPA has been king throughout the craft beer boom, the craft beer movement, and, craft beer stable life, even in COVID times where people were having to, buy things and hold on to them, IPAs were still selling really well. Now, with that being said, we did see a big boom in lower ABV offerings. That has been something that's been growing over years and years. And I think it really came to a head about halfway through 2020 when people, kind of got over the ability to stay home all day and drink all day. It's kind of hard to wake up and start pounding your 7, 8 or higher percent, IPAs, and then, continue on and try to live a productive, healthy life. We saw a big push in hard seltzers, we saw a big push in lagers, and we saw a big push in low ABV beers. And I think that trend is going to continue on into 2021 as people try to rebuild their lives in what new normal looks like. I do think there is massive opportunity in all three of these markets for the IPA to thrive. You have your India Pale Lager. I've started seeing some craft hard seltzers with fruit puree and hops that basically look like a NEPA. It's basically just gluten-free. And then, of course, your low and no ABV beers, which have always had IPAs in that category anyway. I do still think we're going to see our, milkshakes and our pastry and our fruity, juicy, puree bombs. And with that being said, I think that one of the most interesting things is if we go back to the New England IPA, several years ago, it was like, oh, no one can make a New England IPA for national or global distribution because it's just too hard to get it right. Well, big breweries started doing that in spades. I do think we're going to start seeing that with your super fruity puree beers. I guarantee by the end of 2021, one of the major big breweries or some of the really strong regional powerhouses will have at least multi-state fruit puree, whether that's a Goza or a Berliner, something like that's going to come. It might not reach puree, but I think we're going to get the larger brewery equivalent of that. It might be a little more shelf stable, it might be less fruity and more accessible, but I would be willing to bet money on it that we do see something like that happen throughout 2021. Last topic. What do I think all this means for the consumer? One, I think if everything I said comes true, what I think is a lot of these really big, nationally distributed craft breweries, they might become a little bit harder for you to find. And yeah, that is a little bit disappointing for some, but I think it offers up a great opportunity to build up your, the next wave of regional powerhouses. We also might start seeing the prices of beer go up. A lot of breweries are going to be reeling and trying to make up lost profits from the shutdown and everything. So I do think we are going to start seeing a little bit of a price hike. And if that aluminum shortage comes out, cans might not be as readily available. And if they are, I do think that they're going to be a little bit more expensive. So we might see a couple dollars added on to every 4 and 6 pack. There might also be an opportunity to bring back bottles. Here's the cool thing about that. If we do start making bottles, super popular again, especially with people finally being able to get together and have people over, I think we might see a return of the big 22 bomber format for people to have like tasting parties and get-togethers and everything like that, and pop out a 22-ounce bottle of like an imperial stout to share with their friends. It had kind of disappeared in recent years. It's definitely, gone way down from what it was. I think that people are going to want to start packaging their bigger beers in bigger formats in order for people to share them at get-togethers. So I think that is an interesting ripple. I don't know how solid I feel in that assessment, but there's potential there. But I think the number one thing to take away for consumers is that I think if everything I said is true, that the number of offerings might go down, but it creates a vacuum for more interesting things to get brought to you. I do think it is going to be a great year for consumers. It might be a hard year for bigger producers. But for the industry as a whole, I think we definitely got broken down a little bit. And I'm excited to see what we build out of that rubble. These are my guesses, and I'm not saying that any of this is going to happen. They're guesses. That's exactly what they are. But I'm excited to see what the future has potentially. And I think based off of everything I've been reading throughout 2020, I think that's what we're going to see. I'm extremely excited to hear what your thoughts on my thoughts are and what your thoughts are that I missed. And thank you very much for watching. So hope all of you have a happy new year. Like, comment, subscribe. Remember, there's a story in every bottle and that life is beautiful. Cheers, y'all.